I'm Alan Keegan from Omega One. Omega One is an automated trade execution platform, and basically what it does is it aggregates the liquidity that exists on various different exchanges, takes a big trade, breaks it up, and executes it in the cheapest, fastest possible way across all the different exchanges. On top of that, it's non-custodial, such that there's no counterparty risk for a user. In the same way you would have with a decentralized exchange, a user of Omega One actually retains custody of their own funds. So what we do is we capture the biggest benefit from a decentralized exchange, which is a non-custodial trading experience, and then we also will immediately be able to access from day one more liquidity than even any individual centralized exchange. Taking the big transactions, breaking them up, and aggregating the liquidity from the different exchanges would reduce volatility and make the price of buying and selling the asset actually a lot cheaper. If you execute a large order against one individual exchange order book, you push the price up more than you would against all the available places you could buy it, such that you're paying a higher average price than the market price you should be paying if you had access to all the liquidity. So what it fundamentally does is it makes trading cryptocurrencies significantly cheaper, particularly for large players. Solving the counterparty risk problem with the non-custodial trading experience gets rid of counterparty risk, which is also important for institutional big players. So the idea would be, by solving two of these biggest barriers for institutional money to come into the space, we can bring in the institutions that are already pretty interested, which would just, besides bringing a lot of capital into the space to fund innovation, etc., would make the markets more liquid and cheaper to trade. If you look at the story of capital in the world right now, there are massive inefficiencies that have real human consequences for the human experience created by the technology upon which our financial system is built, where you have trillions of dollars in zero or near zero yielding government debt held by things like pension funds that are hedging some kind of liability needs a higher return than that. At the same time, for some innovative, brilliant business person in a third world country, they are often having a lot of trouble accessing any kind of capital. This doesn't make any sense in a world where, as you would have maybe 40, 50 years ago, there'd be no way for the pension fund in the UK to know about the brilliant project getting built somewhere in wherever. Now, the technology problem with communication and information sharing is actually gone. The thing that is retaining us having that massive disparity was all this capital parked in a place that isn't doing any good for the capital holders and isn't doing any good for the world, really, compared to the potential innovation that can be being done on, in places that need the innovation. This huge mismatch, this kind of nonsensical thing that's happening, is no longer constrained by information flow, it's constrained by the technology upon which our capital allocation systems are built. So I think that by bringing more capital into the sort of blockchain space, into the crypto space, where there is the possibility of building entirely new pipelines for the allocation of capital, those major problems in the disparity of wealth and major inefficiencies in the allocation of wealth toward improving the human condition can be solved. We have the opportunity to build a more efficient, transparent, inclusive financial system. Blockchain is an immutable ledger of transactions with no central authority that has the ability to manipulate it. I'd say the biggest difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum, there are a bunch, is the ability to, in a way that is native to the blockchain, code much more complex transactions in Ethereum. There's a thing I've noticed in the space, and there's a lot of different kinds of people in the space doing a lot of different kinds of things, from multidisciplinary, everything. There is a core of people that a type of person that I keep encountering in the crypto space, who are people that figure out what makes sense, and then do it, and don't worry about what's normal. And that's where you end up with innovation, is people finding a problem, figuring out a sensible way to solve it, and even if that thing sounds crazy, if they think through it and they understand that it works, they go and they make it, and they build that thing, and they solve that problem. And so consensus is one of these places become a nexus of people like that. And a high concentration of that kind of person, I think that's one of the most fundamental attributes of an innovator, is how incredible things happen that seem insane when you talk about them, and then people think are impossible, and then talk a year later about how they were inevitable, and must have happened.